Right, so hello and welcome back to another Reddit video. Today we're looking at more of the top posts of the week from r/EntitledParents. My pregnant sister is becoming an entitled parent. So my sister is pregnant, and because I knit, she's asked me to make some baby blankets and the like. I agreed to do so as a gift to her and the baby. I'm not charging her for my time or for any of the materials I've used. I'm not making anything other than the blanket, as I often cook for her and her boyfriend, and will be looking after the baby for free. So the entitlement started when she messaged me to ask if I would do a photo shoot for her, as I did photography as a GCSE and own a camera. I asked if I would get paid, as I would have to travel to her and use my time to do the photo shoot, and then of course edit the images, but she said no. In return, I would get some food and drink, as she wasn't going to pay the photographer who she was planning on hiring. I told her no, but she said that as her sibling, I should do it. She says that I should do it even though we don't live in the same city, and that she would pay for a taxi. I told her that paying the taxi is not the same as paying me. She said she would ask my twin instead, and I told her to do that then. You know, when I first read this, I was like, asking for a favour from your sibling isn't that bad. If my sister asked me to do this, I definitely would. But I think that's because I know she'd do the same for me. Something tells me OP's sister expects to get her way every time without having to give anything in return. Now she's had a kid, she's finished her evolution into a classic entitled parent. Stop messing with my thermostat. Dude, this is not your house. So for the last few months, I've been working as an intern in the HR department of a middle-sized company, and while it has been mostly an uneventful job, there have been some really peculiar moments. Most people up north may be suffering from a white Christmas, but down here in the equator, we are melting from the heat. And in a mildly humid town like the one I live in, it feels like I'm living in the Amazon rainforest. Well, maybe that's because we actually are in the border of the Amazon rainforest. So this would make you think that any building would have the air conditioning units working full-time on power, no? Well, not if Jeremy Johnson, our protagonist, could prevent it. Every single day, Jeremy was the first to get into the building. He'd enter the office he shared with 5 other guys and set the thermostat to a not so refreshing 25 degrees centigrade, or 77 degrees for those who use Fahrenheit. The device was on his workplace, so he basically had full control over it. When any of his workers complained about it still being really hot, he would set it down to 20 degrees, or 68 degrees Fahrenheit, for about 10 minutes, and then return it to his beloved 25. If they changed it themselves, he would genuinely just set it back once they returned to their desks. As childish as this may sound, this game lasted for about a month, until a HR representative, your sweet narrator here present, had to intervene because it was getting out of hand. I mean, formal complaints were done, and the screaming matches were getting worse and worse, with people in other departments even commenting on the issue. So, normal first step. I interview the 5 guys and they describe the problem I just told you about. Cue the funny part, my interview with Jeremy. I'll try to recreate it as best I can, although I may be a little bit biased. Hello, Mr. Jeremy. I am Latina Cinderella from HR. How are you? Fine, replied Jeremy. So, I said, let's cut to the chase. About the thermostat. What about it? Said Jeremy. I described the complaints against him. Having said this, we need to find a solution, I said. The only problem here is that these peladitos, meaning little kids, a safe idiom, but here it was used rudely, can't handle a bit of heat. A detail I forgot to include, by the way, is that while Jeremy is in his early 40s, his co-workers are between 24 and 30. Yeah, but that's the reason we have air conditioning, sir, so that workers can be as comfortable as they can. It's expensive, he said. Our energy budget is more than able to cover for it, and that's nothing you should worry about anyway. In the case where we need to make cuts, we will tell you. Well, I can't handle the cold, said Jeremy. It triggers my allergy. Well, maybe we could arrange a place change so that you're not so close to the air vent. And, I don't know, maybe you could bring a thin sweater so that you don't get too cold. I don't like sweaters, he snapped back. I'm fine with the way I have the thermostat. Why should I change it? Because you're not alone in your office, Mr. Jeremy, and we can't let this fight affect your work environment. I really don't get all this drama. I keep the same temperature at home and none of my kids complain or are allowed to change it. It should be the same here. I think at this point my face just made the most WTF expression imaginable because I couldn't believe the argument he had just made. Sorry, "Mister, this is not your house," I said. "This is your workplace, and those are not your children. They're your adult co-workers." "Then they should act like it," he snapped back again. "Okay," I said, "that's all I needed to hear. We're going to tell you what measures we will take. Have a good afternoon." So after that weird conversation, I spoke to my supervisor, and in the end it was decided that Mr. Jeremy had two options. Option number one, he could change places in the office and leave the thermostat in the hands of the other guys, meaning he needed to deal with the cold. Or number two, he could move to our backup office, basically an adapted supply closet normally used for extranumerary personnel we sometimes hired, also used occasionally as a file warehouse, and whose only ventilation was a small fan. No windows. Surprisingly enough, Mr. Jeremy chose the first option, and while he is constantly nagging about his cold feet, at least they're not fighting to death anymore. I can't believe he'd rather his entire team was uncomfortable than just wear a jumper. If he hated jumpers that much, then he should have just got a heated seat, and if that didn't work, he'd be more than welcome to shove it up his arse. Parents wanted me to give their kid my sword. So, I'm a medieval enthusiast, and I like going to festivals in my armour and weapons. There are a lot of families and kids at these festivals, running around the castle and having fun. Sometimes, a family will ask if their child could have a picture with me, and I usually let them because I did so too when I was younger. So, this story happened last year. I was at a festival and a family asked me for a picture. German wasn't their first language, so communication was a little odd, but I got to the kid and gave him my sword. It was of course blunt for legal reasons. So they take the picture and start walking away without giving me my sword back. I asked them to stop and gently take it back from the kid, and he wasn't too happy about it. At this point, the mum starts yelling at me, asking why I'm stealing her son's sword and insulting me in some language from the Balkans, I think. I just decided to ignore her and walked away. However, she runs after me and punches me in the back of the helmet and hurts her hand in the process. I mean, punching a metal plate made to withstand axes isn't the best idea. Then she said I stole the sword and I assaulted her and that I should give it back. Soon enough, security showed up, and luckily enough, some bystanders explained everything, and she was escorted off the castle grounds. I feel sorry for the kid. He would have had a pretty good day if his mum wasn't such a bitch. This lady must have had small dog syndrome. Who picks a fight with a guy wearing a sword and armour? Mother decides it's time I get married to some random guy and not my boyfriend. Oh boy, I finally get a chance to show off my parents' entitlement. This one was so fun to find out about. So, a little necessary background. I'm currently no contact with my parents and siblings, and have been for over a year. Extended family I'm okay with, and I spend a lot of time with them. I currently live with my boyfriend, which my entire family is aware of, but don't really know much about. We are also Indian, and my boyfriend is white. So for Christmas, I visited my aunt and cousins to drop off presents. It was a socially distant exchange, but I stayed a while to chat about things. Now, whenever I see my aunt, she tends to give me important updates about my parents and my immediate family. For example, things like my mum breaking her arm, or that my brother and his wife had moved closer to home, things like that. So this time, my aunt had another little tidbit she wanted to share with me before I headed out. "So your mum has a proposal for you," she said. Apparently, a family friend had reached out to my mother, not knowing about our no contact situation, and thought that her son would have been a perfect match for me. I literally know nothing about this guy, but my mother apparently rushed ahead agreeing with this friend. She sent my photo and my information, and that friend apparently loved me. My mother then called my aunt and sent her the guy's photo and information. She cried, saying she didn't know how to get in contact with me, and asked to share the good news and asked if she'd reach out to me and show me the photo. My mother kept stressing that he was a good boy from a good family, and we know this person and that person, and how it would be a great match, and how he lives in Chicago so I could be under my sister's nose. All the while married, and oh, wouldn't it be so wonderful. My aunt responded with, okay, yeah, sure, and just didn't really give my mother an opinion. While speaking to my aunt about this, I was incredulous. She is all for mending my relationship with my family, but understands and respects my space. My aunt is well aware that my boyfriend and I live together, so she took what my mother said with a pinch of salt. But oh my god. I am just appalled by my mother and what she thinks is okay to say about me to other people. I'm glad she has an aunt. Dealing with a mum like this and having no other family would be so sad. Imagine thinking you can barge your way back into your kid's life with an arranged marriage. It's insane. Well, that is unfortunately all we have time for today. If you enjoyed this video and you want to make sure you catch the next one, make sure you're subscribed down below so you don't miss out. Thank you for watching and listening, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye for now.